The ANC's National Chair, Gwede Mantashe, is calling South Africans lazy people who sit and wait for service delivery. He blames this on what he calls a passive democracy that created passive citizens. Mantashe was speaking at the 2019 manifesto review in Buffalo City. So let's discuss this with political analyst Lukhona Mnguni. Good to have you with us this morning, Lukhona. What do you make of these statements made by Gwede Mantashe? Let me actually quote. He says, "One of the mistakes we have committed over the years is creating a passive society, people who cannot do anything for themselves, people who sit and wait for service delivery." What do you make of this?
Well, a very good morning, Tammy, and a good morning to our dear ENCA viewers. I mean, he is scapegoating citizens, first of all, and secondly, I think what he's also trying to do is to deflect attention from the African National Congress as the governing party insofar as taking responsibility for its multiple failures when it comes to delivering services to society. I mean, Tammy, we've got to be very careful on some of these things. So when you say people are just waiting for government to deliver services, the Constitution enjoins government to ensure that citizens have access and utility of certain socio-economic rights. So the rights to water, the rights to healthcare, the rights to basic education, and of course for children it goes even further. I mean, the rights to shelter and secure homes and all of these things. For other people, I mean, the right to reproductive health. So when people make those demands, you cannot then say it's because they are passive. It's because, well, one government has failed to create an environment where the economy is growing and it gives decent work to people with fair wages that are not minimum wages but are living wages, and people then can be able to be self-sufficient and self-reliant insofar as those things are concerned. So to then put the blame at the doorstep of saying they created a passive citizenry. Of course, on the other hand, I mean, just lastly on this point, there has been a bit of a discussion that there has been demobilization of society since 1994, where society does become quite passive in the sense that it has lost its political agency, to awaken when the government, the political landscape. So I think yes, there is that kind of sense of being a passive society insofar as political agency is concerned, but insofar as demanding socio-economic rights from the government, that's pure state failure, and that's pure government failure in particular.
Is this then an admission by Gwede Mantashe that the ANC has failed to provide these to society? Because ultimately, that's why there are election promises. During an election year, when you are campaigning, you say to the citizens of the country, I will do this for you if you do this for me. So if now Gwede Mantashe is saying that the ANC made a mistake by allowing people to not do things for themselves because they promised that they would do it for the people, is that an admission of failure? What do you make of it?
Well, of course, it must be seen as an admission of failure in some ways, but it must also be seen at the same time as an attempt to protect the ANC from criticism. It is an admission of failure insofar as, this is a manifesto review, Tammy, and of course, I have asked the question of, the idea of a manifesto review that is conducted through stadia, because the citizens or the voters and supporters of the ANC don't appear to be given an opportunity to review the manifesto from their perspective and tell the leadership exactly how they feel about, the road between 2019 and where we are. If you remember, Tammy, the 2019 manifesto of the ANC opened with an admission that things had gone wrong, mistakes had been made, and therefore now they would set on a new course. The question then, if you are doing a manifesto review, is those mistakes that were acknowledged, largely related to the then years of President Zuma, and under the, tutelage of state capture, how far has the African National Congress in government managed to arrest the scourge of corruption, managed to arrest the scourge of lawlessness amongst public servants and then those who are deployed as public representatives in the various legislatures. And then you go forward and then say, well, in that sense of an admission of guilt, in that sense of admission of failure in government, what is it that they are promising to do and do anew for citizens? So those are the things that, for me, I think are very important. But yes, I do think that in government, the ANC has not done so well, and all the matrix are there, from unemployment to poverty to the destitution of people. The matrix show that there has been a failure of government.
It looks like there is a change of strategy, Lukhona, a change of rhetoric here. But tell me if there is alignment as well. You'll hear the SACP, they are against the austerity measures. We understand and we know that austerity measures obviously mean that, no more, infrastructure development. That's going to be cut down. We know that it means, no more hiring. Posts are going to be, cut down. So that in itself creates an environment where people cannot really thrive. It creates an environment where there is a decline in jobs, a decline in employment. How does one align those type of statements where you're saying that South Africans are passive, that they are lazy, and yet you are also putting together, the type of policies that are not going to empower South Africans to be able to do anything?
Well, Tammy, this is where some people have been suggesting that perhaps from a policy point of view, there's no longer new ideas that are coming to inspire, a growth trajectory for the economy, to inspire a sense of, giving people implements and tools for them to conduct their own local economies, to regulate local economies in a way that ensures that, South Africans and ordinary people have a fighting chance. I mean, you just look at how these so-called passive citizens who try and earn an honest living through the informal economy are harassed by metro police. Instead of being helped to be compliant, their goods are confiscated, even if they are not illicit goods, even if they are not counterfeit goods. These goods are actually, confiscated, and people are disempowered from actually realizing that agency they have for their own economic development. So it is quite an insult, in actual fact, I think, to suggest that these citizens are passive when on a daily basis, Tammy, with the kind of unemployment that we have and with the kind of poverty levels that we have. People are still not dying from hunger in scores. It tells you then that there is work that people do to try and have a fighting chance in life, to try and perhaps maybe substitute their labor for generating a livelihood, and in very difficult and trying circumstances.
I wonder, Lukhona, the view that Gwede Mantashe put forward in Buffalo City, is that a personal view, or is that the stance of the governing party? I didn't quite hear Fikile Mbalula when he was speaking in KZN. He was focusing more, I guess, on the increase in social grants. Is this a uniform line throughout the party, or something do you believe that's individual to Gwede Mantashe?
Well, I think the party itself has not really firmed up what its position is going to be in how it electioneers towards the 2024 elections. They are aware that there's massive resistance from society and that there is high possibility for them to lose power in certain provinces, particularly such as KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. They might be more secure in the Eastern Cape. But I think, one, there is a strand that says the ANC has a good story to tell, and that's what they have in actual fact been going with as a sort of a campaign strategy towards 2024. But secondly, I think there is this tension and there is this reception that they are getting from society that says, but you are to blame. And then they're probably trying to turn around that kind of messaging to say, but no, we are not the only ones at fault, but you are also the passive citizens who are actually clearly not doing enough. But however, Tammy, the reason there are governments is because because there has to be service delivery. That service delivery has to create an enabling environment for economic activity, economic participation, economic inclusivity. And without doing those things, unfortunately then, there will not be any form of development and people will wallow in poverty. And when you've got politicians who are spending more time trying to deal with the problem being the citizen rather than interrogating their tenure in government and asking the question as to how can they govern society better, you can be rest assured, Tammy, that there is very little that's going to shift insofar as the dial of service delivery and development is concerned.
And Lukhona, as you're speaking, I'm reminded of the issue of Eskom, when the president said that we are all to blame, that it is our collective responsibility. So given that, it may not actually be just, one man saying what he thinks, but it may very well be the stance and the new positioning of the party to say collectively, let's take responsibility, therefore collectively, let's build things together. On your parting shot.
Well, I mean, you would know that I think it was former President Jacob Zuma, 2009. The election stance was working together, we can do more, something to that effect. And I think there's always been this rallying call to see the ANC, and that's why the ANC calls itself a leader of society, because it sees society's destiny intertwined with that of the ANC. But I think that as time goes by, Tammy, people are realizing that they may have different choices, they may have different avenues to exercise their politics, to communicate their dissatisfaction. But if the government's point is going to be, it started off with South Africans are resilient people, and South Africans started to say, but we are tired of being resilient. We've been resilient for too long. We want to just live a normal, active, and fulfilling life. And if the stance is then going to, take collective blame with society, unfortunately, Tammy, there's nothing you and I can do about Eskom. I doubt there's anything you and I have gained from the corruption that has happened at Eskom and the years of maladministration and incompetence in new built infrastructure. The people who have profited billions of rands from the sales of diesel and the burning of diesel to keep the lights on. There's nothing you and I can unfortunately take responsibility for where those things are concerned.
Lukhona Mnguni, thank you so much for your analysis this morning. That's political analyst Lukhona Mnguni. I'm quite actually keen to hear what your thoughts are. I know you're very active on social media, so please do go on X and give your thoughts on the comments that have been made. One of the mistakes we have committed over the years, says Gwede Mantashe, is creating a passive society, people who cannot do anything for themselves, people who sit and wait for service delivery. What do you make of that? What does that say to you? Is there any sense of truth to that? Do you, as a citizen, take ownership of that in one way or another? Let's hear your views, and I'll go through them a little bit later on as well today.